Hello and welcome. Our top focus remains on Kenya, where anti-government protests are showing no signs of dying down. In fact, they have only been intensifying. Protesters are once again out on the streets with one demand, that Kenyan President William Ruto must resign. On Tuesday, scenes on the streets of the capital Nairobi and other parts appeared to be the most chaotic. Since the withdrawal of the controversial finance bill, heavily armed police clashed with the protesters. Now, police fired live ammunition on the crowds on the outskirts of Nairobi. One person was reportedly shot dead. Officers also fired tear gas and water cannons on the crowds, some of whom were seen throwing rocks at the police. The protesters also burned tires, waved Kenyan flags, while they kept on chanting, "Ruto must go." Protesters have accused the police of using excessive force to disperse the angry crowds.
Do not kill us!
They are very brutal. They do not care on whatever they are doing. We are peaceful. We did not have anything, but they are shooting at us. They are giving us tear gas. So what kind of a country is this? Can't we have a dialogue with them? Can't we come to the streets and march? Because it is our right to demonstrate. They are here to, they are supposed to protect us, but they are not protecting us. So what is this?
Demonstrators blocked major roads and highways during the Tuesday protests in the capital. Businesses in Nairobi remained closed, while protests were also reported in the towns of Mombasa, Kisumu and Eldoret.
This is the fourth week protesting on the streets. We're still protesting because Ruto could have easily dissolved this from the first week. He would have signed off his people from the first week. He would have stepped down from the first week. But he's waited this long. All these people have died, all this life loss, and still he cannot see the bigger impact he's creating on the country.
It has been a month since the youth-led mass protests started in Kenya. They were initially against the proposed tax hikes, but have now turned into a full-fledged campaign against the ruling administration in Kenya. People are demanding to end corruption, improve governance, and also for the president to step down. President Ruto has bowed down to the public pressure and has taken key steps in an attempt to quell the anger. However, the public sentiment has not shifted in his favor, despite scrapping all of the proposed tax hikes and sacking the entire cabinet. People in Kenya, mostly the youth, remain dissatisfied and skeptical. Ruto has not been unable to gain public trust.
We are asking genuine questions. Where is accountability? Where is governance? What the president has does is brush us off and then go and start political propaganda. That is what we don't want.
On the streets today, to advance the conversation we started the other day, the conversation started with calls for Ruto to reject the finance bill, but it was not limited to now Ruto just rejecting the finance bill. It was just, the trigger that now, triggered now a lot of objective conditions that have been happening in the country.
President William Ruto is now dealing with his toughest challenge. He has faced a massive backlash for not taking accountability for the police crackdown on the protesters. As per the rights groups, at least 50 people have been killed, 413 injured, 682 arbitrarily detained, and 59 have been abducted or are missing in connection with the protests. Last week, Kenya's police chief resigned over the deaths. However, renewed protests have once again highlighted police aggression against what protesters call peaceful rallies. Time and again, the Kenyan president has blamed foreign entities for unrest in the country. Earlier this week, he accused US-based Ford Foundation of sponsoring the anarchy and protests. He has not provided any evidence, and the Ford Foundation has rejected the allegation. Ruto is also facing demands of the lenders to cut deficits, while Kenyans reel with the cost of living crisis. So while President William Ruto continues to face the heat, all eyes are on what will be his next steps. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Mark Bichachi, who is a communication and political strategist. Mark Bichachi is joining us live from Nairobi. Thank you for being with us, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the protesters are back on the streets of Kenya. What are the key grievances driving the anti-government protests now, specifically against President Ruto?
Well, the grievances now arise from the fact that just last week, that is on Friday, there were a number of dead bodies that were gotten in a quarry somewhere in the city of Nairobi. Now, these 9 bodies were suspected to be the dead bodies of protesters who had been kidnapped by the police. Many young people have gone missing. So the public felt that these dead bodies were as a result of further police brutality and executions outside of the rule of law. Secondly, it's a fact that there is a big trust deficit between the person of President Ruto and the people of the Republic of Kenya. If I may remind the public that a few weeks ago, when he held a press conference, one of the most uncomfortable questions he had to answer is why the people regard him as a liar. Therefore, this trust deficit means that every move that he is making, including sacking his cabinet, is met with speculation, with many saying that he's just falling back for the purpose of him then going back to what he usually does. So there is that aspect of a trust deficit. The president on his hand has said that he's taking a new direction. He wants to create a broad-based government. He wants to restart government on a better standing. What problem? Trust deficit is low. At this time, many Kenyans feel that
Yes.
done enough mistakes and to see him hounded out of office.
Right. And what measures is the government taking to address the protesters' demands? And how is the situation likely to evolve in the coming days?
Well, it's a difficult situation for President Ruto, if I'm honest. Number one, he has tried to follow what the protesters want. He has fired his ministers. He has basically scrapped the economic policy that he was moving towards. He has reduced the cost of the office of the First Lady and that of the Vice President's wife. He's done a lot in terms of trying to bridge the gap between the people and himself. But clearly the anger keeps rising because of the way the police have acted, but also because this is a country where the cost of living is still high for people. These young people, many of them say they do not have jobs, they don't have prospects for the future. And even more, they don't seem to resonate anymore with the president. So the president, I expect in coming days, will continue to try to reach out to the youth, will try to speak to them. He has gone on the X spaces to talk to them and try to quell the temperatures down, as it were. But the young people are still on the streets. They're still demanding that he must resign. Of course, pushed on by the deaths they're seeing and pushed on by the fact that there is a very big trust deficit between the political class and the young people.
Yeah, and what role is Gen Z playing in these protests? They are taking a major lead here. And how have they influenced the dynamics of dissent in Kenya?
Well, what Gen Z has done is they've changed the dynamics of opposition politics because they're not acting according to tribe, they're not acting according to class, they're not even acting according to religion. They seem to be one homogeneous mass that is united against the fight against corruption. They're united for better leadership. They want more accountable leadership. Now, whereas they're the leaders of these particular demonstrations, they're supported by the older generations where they feel like they're speaking on behalf of the older generation. So this is a demonstration that is led by the youth, but it is also supported by the older generation. They've also managed to deploy technology for their own use. They've used spaces such as X, they've used Telegram and other walkie-talkie like applications on their phones to be able to organize themselves and mobilize themselves in a very democratic sense that they float ideas, they agree on these ideas, and they execute them en masse. And they have also been able to create sort of a self-driven peer pressure, pushing each other towards holding this government accountable and pushing themselves forward. They've also been able to mobilize doctors to help those who are injured. They've mobilized funds to help bury the deceased. They've also gotten lawyers to go to court and not only challenge the arrest of some of the protesters, but also to go and stop the deployment of the army, for example, and different things in the courts. So this is definitely a new wave of how not only politics is done in Kenya, but how picketing is done. Now, to your question as to what they've done to influence the politics of the country, they have changed how members of parliament consider representation. They've changed how the executive can make decisions and budgets. So this is a watershed moment for the Republic of Kenya.
Right. Mark, thank you very much for bringing us all the latest coming out of Kenya.
Most welcome.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment. So thank you for making First Post 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for a future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.
Obviously today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
Start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. The first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to First Post America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital.